You might think you know the Punisher, but here are 12 facts you may not know about Marvel's skull-shirted murder hero. The Punisher first appeared in 1974's Amazing Spider-Man number 129, in a story by Jerry Conway and Ross Andru. The large skull logo was contributed to the design by Marvel art director John Romita Sr., based on a crude sketch Conway had done of the character when he turned in the script. Conway originally wanted to call the character the Assassin, but editorial decided that there were too many negative connotations to that word for a character who was intended to be presented as a hero eventually. The name The Punisher was the suggestion of Stan Lee, who had previously used the name for a robot that belonged to Galactus. The main inspiration for The Punisher is a series of novels that began in 1969 called The Executioner, starring Vietnam veteran Mac Bolan, who fights a war of vengeance against the Mafia for their role in the death of his family. Though the Punisher's name is usually given as Frank Castle, his birth name is Frank Castiglione, and as a young man, he studied to be a priest before realizing he couldn't forgive those who did evil. He joined the Marines, and after returning from a tour in Vietnam, his wife and children were murdered by the Mafia, thus beginning his campaign of violent revenge against all criminals. At the height of his popularity in the late 80s and early 90s, the Punisher starred in multiple series, including 3 ongoing series, The Punisher Warzone, and The Punisher War Journal, a black and white magazine, various one-shots, miniseries, and guest appearances, as well as a bizarre 10-issue series called The Punisher Armory. The Punisher Armory was a series that purported to be Frank's personal diary, with the first issue cover promising to reveal his thoughts, his feelings, his weapons. Mostly the series went into an almost erotic amount of detail about the different kinds of guns Frank owns. In one controversial story from 1992's The Punisher number 60-62, Frank has his face cut up really badly by his enemy Jigsaw while in prison. A plastic surgeon is able to repair his face, but a side effect of the surgery is that Frank temporarily turns black. Naturally, he teams up with Luke Cage. Frank allies himself with a police officer named Lynn Michaels to take down a serial rapist. Inspired by her interaction with the Punisher and developing feelings for him, Michaels leaves the force and for a time takes up the identity of Lady Punisher. Perhaps the weirdest thing that has ever happened to the Punisher, yes, weirder than that time he met Archie, is when after committing suicide, Frank is resurrected as an angel with glowing eyes and a mystic sigil on his forehead. He goes on to murder bad guys with giant glowing spiky guns that shoot Jesus lasers. The most critically acclaimed era of the Punisher was the out-of-continuity series by writer Garth Ennis from Marvel's mature readers Max imprint. I don't really have an interesting fact about this, but Punisher fans will be really mad if I don't at least mention it. Although the Punisher hates most superheroes for their inability to get the job done on a permanent basis, he has a special reverence for super soldier Captain America. After Cap was killed in the wake of the superhero Civil War, Frank altered his costume in homage to his hero and to help fill the gap left by his absence. In one storyline, after being cut to pieces by Wolverine's son, Frank Castle was brought back to life by Morbius, the living vampire, as a huge Frankenstein-like creature called Franken Castle. He then teamed up with a bunch of monsters to fight off a paramilitary monster-hunting force. That's it for this episode of You Think You Know Comics. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Comics Alliance for more comic facts, and check out comicsalliance.com for more comic awesomeness.